Welcome to Refugee Assistance Partners New Jersey, or RAP. This is the second in the series of 3 volunteer trainings covering communication and goal setting. We encourage you to complete the series to fully equip you to be a volunteer with RAP. This training includes materials from the Global Refugee Sponsorship Initiative and switchboard.org and is informed by the lived experience of RAP clients and volunteers. This training will inform you about communication and setting goals. We hope to develop a deeper understanding of the effects of language, to promote partnerships as central to our work, and to build a skill set with which to approach setting goals. At the end of this training, there are practice scenarios to help us think about situations we sometimes experience in refugee service. There is no one right answer. They are designed to apply our knowledge of RAP's mission, values, principles, and approach to help guide our attitudes and actions. First, let's talk about communication. The way we convey information about facts, resources, and emotions is at least as important as the information itself. Communication is the process of exchanging ideas and information between multiple people or groups. It can be written communication, verbal, or what is said and heard, or nonverbal, in other words, what a person's body movements add to meaning. As a reciprocal exchange, it is just as important to receive meaning through reading, listening, and observing as it is to convey meaning. We use active listening to express our respect and make sure we clearly understand what the speaker is trying to convey. First, paraphrase. Restate what you've heard using your own words. Match your language to the other person. Then summarize. Reiterate key points from the entire conversation. Use clarifying questions and follow up with, "Did I understand that right?" and asking for confirmation. Throughout the exchange, we express empathy, communicate that you care, and be aware of the person's feelings, thoughts, and experiences. And use nonverbal body language to show that we're listening and value what we're hearing by using an open posture and matching eye contact and personal space with the other person. Here are some tips for active listening. Pay close attention. Don't use your listening time just forming your response. Defer judgment. In the exchange of ideas, we're on equal footing. Use body language to show openness and maintain respect both for the person speaking and what they're saying. Seek understanding, especially in situations we're confused by, seem illogical, or we don't agree with. Maintaining balanced interactions promotes a client-centered approach based in mutual respect. Use I statements to make it clear you are stating your perspective while leaving room for theirs. Maintain open body language to signal that you are inviting an exchange, and balance your physical levels when sitting or standing. Being assertive when communicating establishes healthy boundaries and models good communication and self-advocacy. Both people are heard and understood. You can explain your position and advocate for your rights while acknowledging and respecting the position and rights of others. Everyone in the interaction cooperates to find resolutions. Different forms of communication lend themselves to different situations. For example, in a situation where nonverbal cues are important, a volunteer may choose an in-person conversation or a video call. In the case of conveying very specific information, such as understanding a legal contract, written translation in a person's native language might be paired with oral interpretation to make sure all content is fully understood. Identifying our assumptions about newcomers' English proficiency will improve our communication. Many, but not all, refugee newcomers will require English instruction. For some newcomers, English might actually be their native language. Others have no English and are not literate in their native language. Most people are somewhere in between. Because education methods vary widely around the world, a person's language and literacy level may or may not be reflective of their previous education. For those whom translation or interpretation is useful, keep in mind that using automated services like a phone app or a web service can lead to significant miscommunication. You might lose the nuances, intonation, and some of the meaning of the conversation. When using interpretation, keep in mind that the interpreter is tasked to say exactly what you say without paraphrasing. It's helpful to choose your words with this in mind. Avoid idioms and figures of speech, region-specific language, colloquials or slang, shorthand text, euphemisms, or passive voice. Those create confusion. Use instead literal phrases, present tense, straightforward vocabulary, complete words, direct language, and active voice. The words we choose when referring to our work and our clients affect the way others understand our work and the people we interact with. For example, concentrating on past trauma instead of current strengths and future goals is very damaging to our clients and refugee service as a whole. Even the label refugee can impact society's reception of our clients and consequently their access to community resources. This section is about setting goals, both for RAP as an organization and the goals set in partnership between clients and RAP volunteers in the course of our work. Goal setting affects each part of RAP. Some goals are set within the context of providing direct services to clients, such as ESL and literacy tutoring, community orientation, advocacy, or casework. Some goals are set for the organization as a whole and pertain to diversity, volunteer support, community development, media, and fundraising. All of RAP's actions must respect the people we serve. When setting goals in each area, volunteers should ask, how are refugee newcomers affected by our actions? How are we involving newcomers in the process? How are we including the perspective of newcomers in decision making? How are we promoting growth, healing, and resilience? A large part of our work is specifically designed to enhance the resilience of our clients. These factors include strong relationships, recognition and appreciation of abilities, control over one's own life, having a sense of belonging, and faith. Our actions as a group must always underscore and promote all of these factors. As discussed in the first volunteer training, our mission, values, principles, and approach affirm all of these factors both directly and indirectly. First and foremost, the goals set to guide our partnership between volunteers and clients must be established with clients, not for them. The clients are involved at all stages of the process because ultimately the client accepts responsibility for taking an active role in achieving the end goal. Goals should be realistic, sensible, and time-bound, and should respect the culture of the client. For example, a mutually agreed upon goal might be for the client to learn the route to their new job. It is realistic, sensible, and tied to the onset of their new job. This goal supports the client's autonomy and independence if it is set in partnership with the client. When planning out how to address a situation or achieve a goal, the client drives this conversation. Our role as volunteers is to inform, guide, and remove barriers. We create a plan with the clients and break actions up into realistic steps. Then, you and the client agree on which steps each of you are responsible for. Identify the helpful resources and skills the client has already, and then help the client develop new skills and knowledge necessary to achieve the agreed upon goal or address a problem. We want to give the clients as much autonomy, choice, and power over the process as possible. As volunteers, we intervene only as much as the situation requires. For example, in cases of severe food or housing insecurity, RAP is likely to take a direct action, whereas a situation such as learning how to log into their computer requires only to teach a new skill. When discussing possible goals, both short-term and long-term, Ensure that the client has all the information necessary to make an informed decision. Ask the client what is most important or bothersome for them right now. Consider where the client is in the process of migration, resettlement, and adjustment. For example, goals set in the first 90 days after arrival are very different than goals set after being in the United States for 6 months or even a year. Changes in family member roles, values, and beliefs as they're impacted by the process of resettlement can shift the process and focus of setting goals. Some examples of this are a wife working when this was previously not culturally acceptable, a father working in manual labor when he was previously an esteemed teacher, emphasis on education where it was previously considered a privilege, children speaking English more fluently than their parents. All of these could influence the process of setting goals. It's good practice when interacting with anyone, clients, fellow volunteers, or community members, to have cultural humility. Each person is affected by a unique combination of cultural experiences that shape their worldview. No culture is inherently better or worse than any other. In our work, we put the client's culture at the forefront since they have the control over their path. The client's approach to what goals are important to gaining self-sufficiency often look very different from if you were in their situation. To that end, avoid approaching assistance with a superior perspective or a judgment based on your own cultural values. Don't discount culturally specific experiences. They're all relevant and important, and identify cultural needs that will influence goals and services. When working in partnership with a client in setting goals, keep in mind everyone is uniquely shaped by their culture, including ourselves. People often make assumptions about situations or other people based on their own worldview. We need to identify our own assumptions that are based on biases. Once we're aware of our own biases, we can avoid acting on them. The client also might believe stereotypes about us as volunteers. We can use open, respectful communication to share our own culture while pointing out that we don't represent all Americans and that each person is unique. Now let's look at some practice scenarios. I encourage you to pause the presentation after each scenario is read and think about the prompt. There is no one right answer. These scenarios are adapted from real-life situations that we've encountered in the past. They're designed to encourage you to think about the nuances of RAP's work and be able to apply what you've learned. Here's the first scenario. Ahmed ran his own flower shop in his home country and would like to continue working in this profession. But so far, he's been unsuccessful in finding a job as a florist. He's also been taking English language classes, but feels like he's not improving. Recently, Ahmed found a job as a dishwasher in a local restaurant. He enjoys it and wants to work there full time. Everyone working at the restaurant speaks Arabic, so Ahmed stopped attending English classes. Louis is a volunteer responsible for arranging the lessons. Louis knows the importance of learning English beyond the work environment. How could Louis discuss this conflict of goals with Ahmed? Since Ahmed changed direction, a conversation is warranted. First, Louis might open with asking respectful, genuine questions about why Ahmed took a different course. Louis will use active listening to pay attention, defer judgment, and seek understanding about Ahmed's position. It will be helpful to ascertain Ahmed's ultimate aim. Is Ahmed's aim to reach self-sufficiency through gainful employment? Does Ahmed eventually want to become a citizen? Citizenship would require English fluency. Has Louis expressed in different ways his knowledge about the importance of English beyond the job so that Ahmed can make an informed decision? Is Louis considering the cultural needs of Ahmed? This might require a reevaluation of goals. Ultimately, Ahmed must make his own decision about his course. Louis will give him the knowledge he needs to make an informed choice and then respect that choice. Let's look at the next scenario. Dami is tutoring Sharif at the local library. Dami and Sharif have sat down to begin work. Before Dami can start the lesson, Sharif explains to Dami that he still has family in Jordan, whom he would like to join him in this country. He asks Dami directly if they could also be sponsored by RAP. Dami does not know the answer to this question, but thinks that it's unlikely. Not wanting to get distracted, Dami deflects the question, telling Sharif, "I don't know, and it probably won't happen for a long time, so let's better to focus on the task at hand." Sharif is upset by this, but does not want to tell Dami. He's silent. Dami tries to get him to focus on the lesson, but Sharif is distracted and has clearly lost interest. How can this conflict in goals shift Dami's actions in response? First, let's look at the interaction. Sharif has clearly and directly communicated a new goal to Dami. Dami does not actually respond to this and instead of listening, shifts the focus away. Dami also indicates this goal is not achievable without having any information about it, which is not respectful, affirming, or client-centered. If Dami recognizes this based on Sharif's reaction, Dami could tell Sharif that they will tell the RAP team leaders about his situation since they might know more about this goal. That keeps Dami within the area they are most familiar with. The conflict is likely to be naturally up-channeled when the tutoring team lead does their routine check-in to monitor progress and interactions. Mamadou has not yet found work because of his lack of English fluency and is struggling to make ends meet. Janet visits Mamadou weekly so they can review his mail together since Mamadou does not read English yet. Mamadou asked Janet to open a letter from DYFS, Department of Youth and Family Services, during her visit. According to the letter, Mamadou was reported for neglect because his children come to school without food. The letter indicates that the claim was unsubstantiated and the DYFS case was closed. Janet explains the letter to Mamadou, but it's difficult to communicate complexities. What might Janet do with this information? There's a lot going on in this scenario. The DYFS letter indicates what could have been a major legal and social issue. This would require up-channeling the information to a RAP leader and possibly the resettlement agency if Mamadou still has an open case with the agency. How does Janet protect Mamadou's confidentiality in this situation? This clearly warrants the need for an interpreter. Since Mamadou is experiencing multiple barriers related to his lack of English fluency, RAP might suggest or even require he take an ESL class. If he is already enrolled, how much information about his barriers can Janet discuss with his tutor in order to target the lessons? And why are his kids going without food? This might indicate a crisis of food insecurity, or it might be as simple as checking on the status of his kid's free lunch program at school. The team must be careful not to act on this information without discussing this with Mamadou through an interpreter. Also, this might be an opportune time to revisit Mamadou's family goals. Here's the final scenario. The group has arranged for a newcomer family to live in a nice house in a safe neighborhood, but they want to move to live closer to their ethnocultural community in a less desirable area. How do the RAP approach and values guide the response to this family's expressed goal? As a recap, the RAP values are welcome, collaboration, community, resilience, and respect. RAP welcomed the family into community to the best of their ability, but before taking into account the cultural considerations of the family. Are there cultural biases involved in deciding what is less desirable? Taking into account the safety of the family, has the group communicated information about safety in an unbiased way so the family has all they need to make an informed choice? Is this a case of a shift in goals, or is this a scenario that indicates the family is self-advocating and approaching self-sufficiency? How much assistance, if any, does RAP provide regarding securing new housing, knowing the family must take responsibility and have control over their own path? It would be wise to consider what stage they're at in their resettlement and maintain a strengths-based approach. In this training, we discussed communication basics, active listening skills, using translation and interpretation, setting goals, and reviewed several practice scenarios.